Hillsborough Television. Programming that keeps you informed about the services and activities of your county government.
And welcome to Beyond Today, the program that addresses the future of our community through conversations with people who are working today for a better tomorrow. I'm Ray Shermonte, your host for Beyond Today and Assistant Executive Director for the Hillsborough County City-County Planning Commission. In our last program, we talked with Planning Commissioners Christine Malzone and Dooley Hotelling. In today's shows, we want to talk with some other planning commissioners. You know, these are citizens of your community, and it's interesting to know that they got involved in their community and the Planning Commission. We'll talk first with Planning Commissioner Jan Smith. Jan is from Northwest Hillsborough County and has a love affair with Lutz. Jan, you have served as chairman of the Planning Commission several times, and I know you're very involved in the Planning Commission, but how did this come to happen, and how did you come to Hillsborough County in the first place?
I came to Hillsborough County back in 1964. I grew up on the east coast of Florida and came to Hillsborough County to go to school at USF. I was excited about this new university in Florida, and I wanted to come over here and study. And when I got my degree in accounting, I ended up at Tampa General Hospital as an accountant for the Hospital and Welfare Board. And while there, I met my husband, who is a pediatrician, and we sadly had to leave Tampa and Hillsborough County for a couple years, but it was really a very adventuresome time for us. We moved to Philadelphia. He finished his training. We had 2 children. We went in the Navy. We went back to Philadelphia, and after returning to Philadelphia, we decided the place we really wanted to be was Hillsborough County, Tampa, Florida. So we came back here in 1972.
It seems like there's a few of us that have had similar experiences
Yes.
to what you said. So you came back in 1972, you said?
1972. And we lived out in Town and Country in a lovely part of Jim Schimberg's community out there called Morgan Woods. It was a neighborhood that had wonderful tree canopy, and all the homes faced the streets, and it was a great place to let children grow up and to be around other children their age. But Earl and I had always wanted to be on waterfront property. We didn't particularly want to be on the Gulf or the Bay because we were concerned about hurricanes and ferocious storms. So we looked around, and we used to drive all over Northwest Hillsborough, and we found this street and this beautiful lake, and we're very fortunate to have a friend of ours locate a home there for us. And so for the last 20-some years, we've been remodeling this home on this beautiful lake in Northwest Hillsborough, and actually the lake is how I got involved in today's issues.
Well, what exactly happened that stirred you up to do this?
There is a well field, probably about a half a mile from my home, and it is a well field that produces approximately 8 million gallons of water a day on an average basis, and can produce up to 23 million gallons of water a day to serve about 72,000 people. And the lake I live on is immediately adjacent to and in the cone of depression of the well field. And in the early 1980s, there was a proposal to build another well field in Northwest Hillsborough County. And we already had Section 21, Cosme Odessa, and South Pasco County. And nobody had ever looked at the cumulative effects of the pumping of these well fields and what was happening to the environment. In fact, I would venture to say that most of the growth in Northwest Hillsborough would never have taken place due to the water, but the pumping has drawn the water table down substantially, and so we have this beautiful, pristine, wetland, upland type of area, and it's beautiful and people want to live there. So we've seen a lot of growth out there. But it was the water issues that
So you began to notice problems, I guess, arising in
The,
your own lake?
well, we watched in 1968, prior to us living there, the lake was nearly dried up. The pumping had increased such an intensity at the well field that the lake had a couple puddles left in it. The average depth of the lake is about 7.5 to 8 feet. In the southeast corner of the lake, there's a big sinkhole. And it's interesting that most of the lakes in Hillsborough County and across the state of Florida are really formed by sinkhole activity. And so we were very concerned about soil subsidence, settlement, problems that we began to see with our house, the low lake levels, the effect to the ecology and the environment around the lake, the problems with the cypress trees. And so I just became an avid environmentalist, I think.
So you saw physical changes slowly taking place or tried to figure out a way, I guess, to deal with them.
Absolutely.
So you first, I guess, became what we would call a civic activist?
As my husband refers to me as a terrorist, which isn't especially a good word to choose today, I suppose.
No, I guess not.
But I became involved in the Lutz Civic Association, and then with that group I became involved with the Council of Northwest Hillsborough Civic Associations. And it was an opportunity to meet people all over Northwest Hillsborough that were experiencing similar problems, and we felt that if we worked together, we would have a better opportunity to help solve the problems.
Now, you live in the community that we'll refer to as Lutz, I guess, which doesn't really have definite boundaries, I don't think.
Well, we have what we consider boundaries. It's really fascinating to look at the history of Lutz and see that originally the boundaries included most of the Lake Magdalene area, all the way out toward USF, west to Gun Highway, and of course north to the county line. Things have happened. Roads have been built that have divided the community somewhat. The I-275 is considered a boundary by some. It's I don't look at Lutz as bounded. I look at it as somewhat of a state of mind, and people that choose to live there, to be very independent. We have a good number of new homes being built. We have growth in Lutz. Some of it has come in the form of walled-in subdivisions, which we are not particularly happy with. We're more interested in the development that reflects the character of the community, which for years has been a residential community built around churches, scouting, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, baseball, and family-owned agricultural land. Many of the tracts are 5, 10, 20 acres, and there are still many viable orange groves in the Lutz area. There are people that are grazing cows on land. So it does have a viable agricultural element, although significantly smaller than South County.
Now, I know one of the big things besides protecting the lakes is protecting this character. How do you see that being done in the future to kind of preserve all these positive things you've just told us about?
I think in many ways, it's like going back to our past and trying to have people develop in the area where the houses face the roads. That's one of the most important things to this community, as opposed to driving through these tunnels. We really like it when homeowners face the road, people see each other, there's a better sense of community and security that way. We do not have a lot of sidewalks in Lutz. People walk on the winding roads. The roads wind sometimes for miles without a place to stop or have an intersection because they meander around the lakes in the area. Looking at a map of Northwest Hillsborough, you see the area is just dotted with lakes. And so it's almost like a park atmosphere when you take a walk. We have people that bike ride in my neighborhood, and they love to come in there because of the tree canopies, because of the narrow winding roads, and because there is not a lot of speeding traffic in my particular neighborhood, although as we're linked with the other neighborhoods in the community, we do have certainly a speeding problem on many of our roadways. But there's also a darkness in Lutz. We try not to have, there aren't street lights. Some of the subdivisions have put them in, but around the lakes where the older development has occurred, there are not streetlights, and so it's very dark. And when you're out at night, you hear the crickets and the frogs, and the silence sometimes is just amazing. And it's something that we want to protect for future generations. There's a tranquility involved in it that we feel is absolutely important to the character of that community.
Now, I know you kind of wear many different hats. Besides the tranquility of Lutz, I know you're involved in projects in the city and historic areas of the city. I'd like you to tell us a little bit about that involvement.
My husband is a toy train collector enthusiast, and I had the opportunity to serve on the Metropolitan Planning Organization that does the transportation planning. And knowing of his interest in trains, and have traveled all over the country and outside the country and ridden trains, I became very interested in the Tampa and Ybor City Street Railway Society, and I have had the pleasure to serve as their president for the last 2 years. And I look at that transportation system in downtown Tampa with a fondness. When I first came to USF, downtown Tampa was really the only true shopping area in the community. And when you came downtown, you could take a bus into town. People dressed up to come into the shopping areas, and it was an experience. It wasn't just a place to go to and leave. It was something you experienced. And so when I became involved with the MPO and the Streetcar Society, I saw such wonderful advantages of having this historic streetcar back in Tampa. The last cars were taken out in August of 1946, and we really hope that we will have them running in downtown Tampa again in the year 2000. The Streetcar Society is restoring a historic streetcar, Bernie 163, and it's an opportunity that, to me, the opportunities are boundless. We have the opportunity to redevelop areas in downtown Tampa and Ybor City. We'll be able to link them together. We'll be able to link businesses and pleasure. I just think it's phenomenal, and I think it's wonderful that we have a mayor that has recognized that this is not just a tourist destination, but an opportunity with this streetcar system to revitalize and to bring some of the magic back to downtown Tampa.
I agree, it's a very exciting project. Just in closing, I'd like for you to give us your vision of where you want Hillsborough County to go in the future in Tampa. What kind of place would you like this area to be?
I'd like to see Hillsborough County and the city of Tampa be a place where we have clean air and clean water, where we have preserved lands for people to enjoy passive recreation, to just get away from the hustle and bustle of a city. I'd like us to have the hustle and bustle of a city. I'd like to see downtown Tampa really be alive again. I'd like to see us link our business centers and our schools and universities with a transit system that is going to allow senior citizens. Baby boomers are approaching that age designation.
Yes,
we need to find a way for people to have alternative forms of transportation. The bus system needs to be greatly improved. But I think by linking all of the education systems, the shopping areas, the entertainment areas, the arts areas, and the businesses, we'll create a community where you can choose to live and work and play that will be clean, will be safe, and will be a wonderful place for people to raise their families and for some of us to grow old.
I think that's a great vision, and I'd like to thank you, Jan, for being on the show. When we return, we'll talk with Jackie Wilson, Planning Commissioner from Plant City. Welcome back to Beyond Today. We are talking with Planning Commissioner Jackie Wilson. Welcome to Beyond Today, Jackie.
Thank you.
Now, you're from Plant City. I'd like to find out how you came to live in Plant City and whatever your experience has been.
Well, my family moved to the Plant City area when I was in first grade. We migrated from the cold weather of Chicago to the sunny Florida, and I've been to all the Plant City schools and graduated from Plant City High School. So East Hillsborough County has been my home for many years.
That's great. So do you have other family besides your immediate family in Plant City?
No, not anymore. Just
So you still have relatives up north, and
a few, yes.
so you went to Plant City schools, and I guess you got married in Plant City,
Did.
had children.
Right. And then I worked either in Plant City or in the Tampa area, so I know what the commute is like going back and forth to
So
Tampa.
you've done that.
I've traveled I-4 and the hectic traffic and all those kinds
Now,
of
what
things.
was your occupation? What field did you work in?
I was in the medical profession for many years,
Okay.
and then I migrated from that to the real estate, and so I've gotten a wide variety of experience in a lot of areas.
Now, you're actually a realtor in Plant City?
Yes, I'm basically inactive at the time. At the time being, but I have had the the background and the experience in that area.
Now, you're on something called the Plant City Planning Board. I'm sure a lot of our audience might not know that Plant City has a special planning board. That's somewhat unique. Can you tell us about that organization?
Yes, Plant City has been very innovative all these years, and they have their own planning board which reviews many of the plans for the city. In fact, they were very instrumental. Plant City is one of the 3 incorporated cities in Hillsborough County. And so they're run by the city commission and a city manager, and this planning board reviews the subdivision regulations and subdivision reviews and things like that, and it's appointed position by the city commission. So I've been serving on that since 1985.
So you've got a lot of experience.
So we were a part of the growth and comprehensive land use plans and all those kinds of things that's been going on in planning for a long time.
Now, how did you get on the planning board in the first place?
I was appointed by the city commission.
But you obviously, I guess, had an interest in those kind of issues.
Well, they like to have a diverse background, just like the Planning Commission people do, and they were looking for someone at that point in time that had a real estate background.
Okay.
And that's how I qualified
So
for
they
it.
kind of came and hunted you out and drafted
Asked
you
if I
into-
was interested.
And you've been involved in planning, I guess, since then.
For a long
which
time.
is going to be probably almost 15 years.
Yeah.
That's great. So you came to be appointed to the Planning Commission, I guess, in the same way?
Correct. There's a member of the planning board that serves on the planning commission, and so the last person, which was Mr. Merriweather, was not reappointed, so they were looking for someone else, and they asked if I would serve. So
Great.
here I am.
Here you are. Well, tell us a little bit about Plant City. I know Plant City has somewhat of a unique history, probably as old as Tampa's, or almost as old.
Yes, Plant City goes way back. Henry Plant, the Plant City is named for Henry Plant in the railroad, and Plant City is also known as the nation's winter strawberry capital. Plant City kind of got its renowned name from the strawberry, and of course we have a strawberry festival and things like that. But Plant City is interested in the quality of life. They've always had the good quality of life. We've got the lovely streets and the trees and the friendly people, and so that's where Plant City I still would like to target, to the quality of life. And
Now, I know there's some interesting things going on in Plant City's downtown. Do you feel that there's a desire maybe to preserve more of the past of Plant City's downtown?
yes, there's been a constant thing for many years, but we've actually made some definite progress. I know there's businesses and refurbing of the older buildings. And so it's slow, like most older historic times, but we have a historic resource board in Plant City. We also have some very historic buildings that the people really work on in a historical society. So Plant City is striving to keep those going.
Just going back to agriculture, you talked about strawberries. How long has that been a main crop in Plant City? I guess historically?
For many,
way
many
back?
years, yeah. I don't know exactly the date, but Plant City, the strawberry is a viable thing, and there's like 3,000 or 4,000 acres of strawberries, and it's a very lucrative crop. But there again, with the prices of the land and when the price of the crop doesn't make for the farmers, they look to other avenues to selling the farmland to to do something with their farmland. So that's a major concern. Agriculture needs to be remembered, and we need to be careful with our agriculture, because if we don't have farmers to grow, where are we going to get our food?
Right. And that is, I think we do need to think about that, and probably one thing people don't realize is Plant City is somewhat of an agricultural center where a lot of these crops go.
That's true. Eastern Hillsborough County, in fact, Hillsborough County itself, I think, is 41st in the whole nation of counties as far as ranking in agriculture, and of course it's 3rd in the state of Florida. So that tells you that agriculture is a very viable thing for thousands of jobs and millions of dollars. So we need to protect agriculture.
I think those are surprising statistics when you think how many people live in Hillsborough County, but it's still 3rd in the whole state, above a lot of far more rural counties.
Right.
And 41st in the nation, which is pretty big. That's kind of exciting. What do you see that we can do to preserve agriculture in the future? How can we help make sure it does stay a viable part of our county?
Well, I think we have to help the farmer in many ways that we can. Number one, watch the values of his land so that his values are high enough that he wants to remain in farming. Just like in any other business, agribusiness and agriculture is a business. And if the farmer can't make a good living, and just like someone else, then he's going to want to get out of it. It's very hard because you have to depend on the weather and the seasons and everything. It's really very different. So to keep the price of the land up so that he can get good loan values for his collateral in the banks, and we just need to preserve the agricultural land so that we have something to hand down to our children.
Now, as a planner, I've kind of watched Plant City change a lot over the last probably 20 years. It's gotten bigger in area, hasn't it?
Yes, we have about 26 square miles and about 28,000 people.
And that is through annexation of adjacent areas?
Yes, I think so. I'm not exactly sure how, but I know those are the approximate figures right now.
Now, you have a large community there called Walden Lake, I guess. That seemed to be a time when Plant City started growing faster, I guess, when Walden Lake. Do you remember when that occurred or how long ago that was?
At least when I started on the planning board, it was beginning somewhere in the 80s.
But that seemed to create a different character for Plant City.
Yes, it did. It did. And it's not built out yet. So we've only had voluntary annexation because of, all that we've had going on in there. But our infrastructure is good. We have good quality of life and everything else that a good rural city has. And it's just a really nice place to live.
So I guess the desire for Plant City isn't simply to grow to be a really large city, but to somewhat retain the character that exists there now.
Well, having been there so many years, that's what I'd like to see. I don't know how the other people coming in, but I think the majority of people that live there are either just outside the city and they like the rural atmosphere, or they like the more comfortable, good life that Plant City has to offer.
Now, we talked a little bit about the downtown of Plant City. Is there any theme or to the revitalization that's going on? I know there was some talk about making it related to the train, being that founded Plant City, or is it antique shops, or which direction are they going in?
Right now there are a lot of antique shops. I've not been part of the actual revitalization, but there are a lot of antique shops, and there's been several individuals that have come in and invested a great deal to do a lot of the refurbishing and rebuilding. So and they're making a lot of things like the antique car shows and things on a periodic basis, which bring people in, and better places to eat lunch and things like that. So it's just a nice place to visit.
I did notice that in the last 5 years, I was there recently, probably a month ago, and I did notice a lot of refurbishing going on, which of course planners like to see. Just talking a little bit about transportation, how has the construction on I-4 affected Plant City? Are you going to be glad when it's done, possibly?
Very glad, very glad. Construction's always a headache. And of course, I-4 has been very difficult to travel for many years. We've impacted the road and greater than what was capable of handling for a long time. But I think it will be an improvement. I would like to, there's many of the rural people that aren't interested in the transportation, like the trains and things like that. But I think it's something we need to think about, because there are a lot of people that live in Plant City but work in Tampa or work somewhere other than Plant City. And having traveled around and visited large municipalities that have the metro systems, I think our people just don't know what they're missing out on by not looking at it and checking into it, because it's just a lot better.
Right. Yeah, I could see Plant City having a station where you just lived there and kind of got onto a system and didn't have to drive. Even though I-4 is going to be a little bit wider, I have a feeling it'll still have a lot of traffic on it.
Still get real busy.
One thing I noticed about Plant City, I know it has ties to Tampa, and it's certainly in Hillsborough County, but there is a lot of interaction between Lakeland and Plant City, isn't there? I just seem to see a lot of traffic going back and forth between those communities.
Well, years ago, Lakeland was closer, and the downtown Lakeland was not as busy as downtown Tampa, but people would go to Lakeland to shop, to go buy school clothes and things like that, when Plant City didn't have it. Because of the proximity to Plant City and didn't have as far to go as they had to go downtown. But that was, there's still a lot going on in Lakeland and in Polk County.
Because it seems like almost the communities are somewhat growing together. I believe, doesn't the Plant City border go to Polk County now? Or pretty close to it?
Pretty close to it, I think.
Now, I notice a lot of industrial development. Is that a goal in Plant City, is to have more places for people to work?
Well, we have about 2,000 acres of industrial land, and I think we'll be filling that, slowly. And I don't know if it's, I don't personally know if that's the goal of the commissioners at this point in time, but we do have that much, and it is working on getting employment to the area.
Well, just as a little bit of a bigger picture, I guess, what do you see as the future of Tampa and Hillsborough County, the kind of community you'd like to see our whole county become?
Well, I think Hillsborough County has a wonderful asset in the fact that they have the Planning Commission and the Planning Commission staff, which are the professional planners. And having traveled around the nation and noticed that the cities and the municipalities that have this type of system seem to be in the forefront of the planning and keeping up with things. Our urban sprawl and things like that are nationwide. Everybody's having that same situation. But the fact that we do have this asset in the Planning Commission, and the commissioners are, individuals on the outside that come in and voice their opinion from the public, I think that's a wonderful asset, and I look forward to the process working, and then the ultimate decision, of course, is the Board of County Commissioners. So even though we're lay people and trying to help with the planning, they're the ones that are elected, and they have the ultimate voice whether something should be done. But I think Tampa is coming a long way, and we have a long way to go, but I think we're working in the right direction.
Great. Well, thank you for serving on the Planning Commission. It only makes it work when interested citizens such as yourself volunteer their time. Let us know if you have any comments about today's show. You can reach us on our hotline or on email as listed here. I'm Ray Shermonti. On behalf of the Planning Commission, I thank you for thinking beyond today.